Welcome, welcome, welcome. Those of you that have just joined the session, a very welcome to everybody. We are going to start shortly, exactly in 5 minutes from now. So we've got two options, just quickly. Those that might not be aware, if this is your first time joining these sessions, so we've got two options. The one on your left-hand side of the screen, the online course. This is the private session that we're going to have with everyone that is joining us through Zoom. On the other hand, for those that might be joining the session afterwards, or for whatever reason they're not available today, but they actually had registered, there is gonna be an e-learning option. So the online option is free of charge, with the exception that if you want a certificate, the course certificate on completion of this course, you will then have to pay that 650 rands or $43, depending where you are and the type of currency that you use. So I am aware that we've got people joining us from different regions, different countries, from all 4 corners of the world, as it were. So feel free to interact. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending where in the world you're joining us. So make yourself comfortable. We are going to be starting shortly. In exactly 3 minutes from now. Feel free, we still have time. If you want to unmute yourself and just greet everybody on the call in the private session, those that are joining us through Zoom, feel free to do that. Right. Sabelo, I wish I had prepared some music, the kind of music that we played last time when you had this kind of session. Whilst we wait for more people to join. Welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you for those that are using the chats. We truly appreciate that, and encourage that everyone do the same. So greetings, Zivanai. You forgive me if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly there. Zivanai, Luezile. Who else is here? A very good afternoon. Good morning, good evening. Sanbonani, Dumelang, Namaste. Right. Sabelo, it is exactly 6 o'clock. So I'm going to stop sharing on my end. You can share the presentation on your side. I see there's quite a few people waiting in the lobby, so I'm just gonna admit them and then we can start. Over to you, Sabelo. So maybe so that we don't disrupt the flow, you can share. I'll come back to do the intro. Sorry, Sabelo, if you can go back to, yes, thank you. All right, so in the interest of time, once again, welcome everybody. We are going to be embarking on this very interesting session, an online course on operations management. My name is Truman Hadebe. With me, I've got a dear brother, a fellow professional. He is an industrial engineer by profession, very much passionate about all things personal development, is very much passionate about professional development, imparting knowledge, sharing experience, sharing insights and tools. That is going to be, part of the things that he's going to be sharing today. His name is indeed Sabelo and Ntanjana. He comes with extensive industry experience, but I don't want to bore you with that lengthy profile, seeing that most of the people that are part of this call actually connected with the Supply Chain Academy, myself and Sabelo, mostly through LinkedIn. We've got some people that connected via Facebook. So we welcome you all. Feel free to interact. So Sabelo is going to be our presenter for today's session, needless to say. So Sabelo, I really don't want to spend much time trying to do justice. So I think I'll just leave it at that for now. You can take it away, brother. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Truman. You can hear me?
Loud and clear, yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction, and good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night. Greetings to everyone on the call, and I'm so excited to be here to share with you what I've learned along the way, and hopefully it might assist you in your journey in your professional journey, especially for those who are in the supply chain and those who are in other departments or functions of the organization. So today's session is mainly about operations management, and I've agreed with Truman that we'll split this into two. Today's session will basically be just introducing what operations management is about, and then from there we'll go into the productivity concept. And then next week, same time, same place, we'll have another session where then we'll go into how then do you improve your products in terms of focusing on quality, focusing on speed, and all the other things that are involved in operations management. So before I start, then I would just like to get a feel of who's in the room by launching just 2 polls so that you can just show us or tell us where you are in terms of currently in operations management role. Are you part of that, or you're not there, or you're not sure? So I've launched the poll, Truman, and then I'd like us just in a minute or so to try and answer that. So far we at 50% of people that have voted.
Right. Keep those responses coming. Shouldn't take long.
Yes, you just click on one and that's it. Yes.
I think it's about what, 3 questions there? It's not appearing on my side, Sabelo, I guess, because I'm also part of the hosting team. So
yes, no, it's just it's one question, and then you they just choose what is their role in terms of operations management.
okay.
So we left now with only 8 people who hasn't voted.
Right.
Okay, let's reach 80% at least, and then we can go to the next one. All right. So on this one, Truman, I think the most are saying no, with 29%, I mean, and then there's 28%, which is somewhat yes, and then we've got yes, which is 23%, and yeah, the last one, with people who are not sure, it's about 16%.
60%.
So, no, 16, 16.
Oh, 16. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So yes, I mean, somewhat yes, and those who are definitely sure that they are not involved in operations management, they are leading in this poll. So I'm gonna end the poll now, and I will share the results. Can everybody see?
Not as yet. Maybe they're not visible on my side. Can someone just confirm thumbs up, or through the chats? Can you see the results of the poll?
Yes.
Okay.
Lovely. Thank you.
So we can see that 33% said no, and 27% yes, 24% somewhat yes. I don't know what that means. And then the other one is not sure, which is 15%. So let's go to the last poll then for the day. Truman, I think you should try to accept the people that are on the lobby.
Yes, I'm doing that. Do you see anyone? Oh, sorry. Let me just do this. All right. Thank you, Sabelo.
Okay. Now let's go. Before we go to the next poll, I would like us to just I think Truman, you'll take over on this one to share the expectations, and then I will come back after you've done with that.
All right. No problem. Thanks, Sabelo. So essentially, I think I did talk to this a little bit when we were doing the introduction. So in terms of the code of conduct, it's strictly informal. Feel free. This is not, we are not in a lecture. I strongly believe that most of the people that are here are already in the industry. Even if you are not, it doesn't really matter. We're all about professional development. So it's not a one-way street. So feel free to interact, feel free to ask questions. Of course, bearing in mind that Sabelo, where he is in South Africa, it's not, you know, during the, the day. So we really don't want to find ourselves, you know, having to go through this session until late in the night. So I'm sure Sabelo, you guide us in terms of the questions. If they ask questions as and when, or maybe, you know, after a couple of slides, then we can pause and take questions. I'm going to be watching the chat as well as your moderator. So feel free to also contribute through the chats. But having said that, I think it becomes very important as well that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we dictate to you in terms of how we're going to run with this session. So in terms of the breaks, the leg stretch, online breaks, everything is really negotiable. Cell phones, please, if you could just make sure that if you're not using your cell phone to connect to this session, please make sure that it doesn't interrupt you and also doesn't interrupt the rest of the attendees. So if you could just put it on flight mode or on silence, we'd truly appreciate that. If you're using your phone, of course, then that rule doesn't apply to you, but just make sure that you remain muted throughout the session, unless, of course, if you've got any questions to ask. Those that prefer to be on camera, by all means, you know, it could be very lonely on this side of the screen where myself and Sabelo are. So all the merrier if you can see you, it makes it even more interesting so that, you know, we are all connected, not only virtually, but you are also able to see the other person, you know, that we are talking to. So with that being said, I think that pretty much covers everything in terms of the expectations from our side, but I would like to also find out from you, not necessarily, you know, like one-on-one, but maybe just a few people, maybe we'll take like 3 to 5 people from the call. So we've got about 44 people on Zoom at the moment. People are still joining the call. So we'll take about 5 people. Just tell us what your expectations are, and then we will then start. Those that prefer to use the chat box, feel free to type in your response, just so that we can gauge in terms of, you know, what your expectations are, so that we make sure that in terms of what we are going to be covering, it speaks to your requirements. And of course, like Sabelo said, we are going to have the last session next week on Thursday, on the 26th, same time, same place. So who's going to take a stab at that? Any takers? You can raise your electronic hand or just unmute yourself and shout your expectations from this online operations management course. I saw Henry's hand, but it has disappeared. Henry, I'm not sure, do you want to say something? All right. Sabelo, it would seem, okay, let me just check the chat. Okay, there's Ruben. Ruben, do you want to say something? Someone says, Wayne, I'm doing operations management on a part-time basis at the moment. I'm keen to learn more on the topic. Thank you very much, Wayne, for that. So there's the response. Okay, Renisha says, obtain a better understanding of operations management and what it entails as in health and safety. Right, thank you so much for that, Renisha. Okay, so colleagues, feel free, just keep those responses coming. It's fine. I'm going to hand over to Sabelo. You can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Truman. Just before I proceed, I think I would just like to play this video. Please listen attentively, and then after it has ended, I will ask some questions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Logistics to me is everything. Everyone is involved in logistics, whether they know it or not. The room that you're sitting in right now. Look around. Everything in this room was shipped multiple times. The journey of a bottle of water is a great example of something that needs to be shipped because it is the essential element of life that every human being depends on. The part that we play in it is making sure that things go on track. This journey of a bottle of water starts in one place, finishes in another, with many steps in between. It's not just the bottle of water, it's the water. Water needs to be transported to a certain location. Where it came from, the recycled materials that go into the packaging, recycled plastic, the bottle top, the little seal that attaches to the bottle top. This all needs to be shipped to the same location in order for final assembly. This all arrives at one production facility. From that production facility, they create a product. That product needs to be shipped off to a distribution center. That distribution center needs to get it to a local distribution center. It then needs to get to the retail store. Retailer can then put it on their shelves, and from there the consumer needs to take it home. One reason that we're dealing with right now, real time, is Hurricane Isaac hitting the Gulf Coast of our country. Weeks in advance, people knew this was coming, and they need water and supplies to stay alive. The role that we play in getting it there is making sure that it gets there on time, in the correct condition, and is usable by the consumer. It's not just a game of getting something from point A to point B. Oftentimes when it's something specifically water, it's the matter between life and death. We make sure that we're looking out for the big picture. People need water. If it's not there at a certain time, there's not just repercussions of an angry customer, it's a human being who's not being able to drink for a day. Common saying I say after I see something well thought out, actually enacted, say that's good logistics.
Yes, so I am aware that many of you might be confused. Why should I play a logistics video on operations management course? However, for me, that video sets the scene perfectly for what we are going to go through this course, which is, of course, trying to gain on the learning outcome. Number one would be the concept of and the scope of operations management, where I will take you through what operations management is and some key events that has happened in the operations management field. Then the second one would be to analyze the role and activities of operations management in an organization. The third one would be to access the objectives and the strategies that are used in the operations management or by operations managers. And then after that, we'll evaluate operations processes, and then we'll do some application of how then operations management is applied across supply chain or across industries. So what I will say first is that on the video, we've seen that logistics, what they do is basically to try and get material and everything in the building or in the warehouse that is needed. And then what they also do is to take the finished products and send it to the customers or to whoever has bought the finished product. So in between the two, that's where operations management really takes place. And if I can oversimplify it, I would say operations management is creating value by form of transforming your inputs or your raw material into the output or the desired service that is needed by the customer or by your client. So between the inputs and the outputs, there's some activities that are taking place which are transforming these materials into what is the desired product or service. Now, I've spoken about products or goods or services. And on the example that we saw on the video, it was an example of a bottle of water. There involves a product, which is water, and also the container, which is the bottle, plus the shipping or the transportation and all that, which is the service that is required in order for the person who wants water to have that water. So operations management is what plays in between from the warehouse or where you store raw material up until the warehouse where you get your finished goods to be stored in order for it to be shipped into the customer or to the client. So in between those two, you would have what we call operations management. And in most organizations, you will find that it is visible or it is easy to identify what is being transformed, because you can see a tangible product or a tangible good that is being produced, like a bottle of water or a bicycle or a car. It is something that you can see from the start, how the parts are assembled and all that up until the finish. However, with intangible things, which is what we term services, it is sometimes difficult to identify what is that process or what is that transformation process. Take an example, if you go into a hospital, or you go to a school, or you go to a church, there is some operations management activities that are taking place there. However, it is difficult to identify them because of this mixture or of this non-tangible thing that you can physically touch and say, this is the product that has been made by this operations management team. So there's this spectrum where you've got a high good content and a high service content. In a high good content, as I said, it's something that where it is easily noticeable that this is the product that is being manufactured or that is being made in this company or in this factory. However, if you go to an industry, or let's say you go to a hospital, or you visit a doctor, or you visit a psychiatrist, you've got a session, or you visit a school, you've got a session there. That is, there's some operations management activities that are involved there. However, because it is intangible stuff, it falls into the category of the services, not the goods. So production, if I can, because in most cases, operations management and production management are used interchangeable. It is the activities or a set or a sequence of activities that take place in adding value into the raw materials that you have or the inputs that you have in order for you to have a good or a service. Let's make an example about baking a cake or bread. You've got all the raw materials like yeast, like flour, like water, and all that. You mix those. By mixing those into a dough, the value of the dough will be more expensive than the value of the raw materials that you had, because now you've added or you've transformed those inputs into nearer to what the customer wants. And then once now you've baked that dough into a cake, or is it dough or butter, one of the two, then once now you've got a complete cake that is really sellable. You can sell that cake, let's say at 50 Rand or something, whereas all your inputs, if you quantify that cost, they would cost you maybe, let's say, 20 Rand or something like that. So in between the transformation process from adding all the inputs up until the finished product, then you've added some value. Hence, you'll find that at the end of the product, this product costs more than when you combine all your inputs or the cost of your inputs. So why then do we ask people or people should study operations management? There are 4 basic reasons that I would share with you. And after this, Truman, I think we should launch another poll to just see the reason why people are really interested in operations management. The first one is that operations management, as I said, that it is the in between the incoming logistics or the things that have been brought into the company by the logistics and the things that the finished goods that are in the warehouse that needs to be sent or to be delivered to the customer. So in between there, one of the reasons that most people get interested in studying or understanding what is happening in operations management is because it is one of the core functions of any organization. And it is what I normally term as the engine, because yes, finance, which then deals with collecting money and giving money so that we can buy the inputs and all that, it can be there. Marketing can be there to go and market and sell the products that are going to be made by the company. Logistics can go and arrange all the raw materials to be within the company. However, if the operations management team haven't added value in all the inputs or in all the raw material that were bought in by the logistics department, then we'll have unsatisfied customers who will leave us and go and buy somewhere else. So it is integral, it is critical that the operations management team or the production management team ensure that they play their function in the organization, which is to ensure that they produce quality product. And they don't only produce it, they produce it faster than the competitor, they produce it cheaper than the competitor, and they produce it at a high quality than our competitor. And then the second one is that we really want to understand how goods or how services are really made or manufactured in the company. So you understand some of the people who get hired in the organization, let's say in the legal department or in another departments, they really don't understand what is happening within the organization in that transformation process. So by studying operations management, we'll get used to terms like quality, terms like production, terms like cost, terms like delivery. That will ensure that we know and understand how these goods and these services are really manufactured within this company. Then the third one is that we really want to understand what operations managers and or leaders really do. It is a lot of work that these people do. For instance, they have to interact with each and every function of the organization to ensure that everything runs smoothly. I know that supply chain and logistics, they are mainly concerned about lead times. However, on top of lead times, operations managers or operations management or production management team, they need to be concerned or worried about what we call cycle time, about what we call standard time, and about what we call takt time. Now, cycle time would be, if I can make an example, if we're manufacturing these blazers, cycle time would be how long it takes for one to add this arm to the body of the blazer. So every time we add that, we need to know how much time does it take. Then standard time would be how long does it take to manufacture the whole blazer? And then takt time would be at what rate should be we producing or should be completing each blazer so that we can be able to deliver to the customer's need. If, let's say, on a weekly basis, we need to deliver 5,000 jackets, we need to divide that 5,000 by the number of hours that we have in a week, which is 40 or 42. Or if you want to go to minutes, you divide that by the minutes, and that rate will tell you that after every, let's say, 2 hours, you need to be manufacturing a blazer, or a complete or a finished blazer needs to go out of the line. So those are the times that these people in the operations management team think about. And it involves a lot of planning, a lot of organizing, a lot of staffing issues and a lot of playing that leadership role, encouraging people to ensure that the time that we have, we maximize it, and the resources that we have, we ensure that they run at the capacity that they should be running. And then the other thing that we need to realize about operations management is that it is one of the most costly parts of the organization, because a huge percentage of the revenues of the organization go or is spent on operations management functions, like getting all the employees that or the operators that will operating the machines. You need to buy machines, you need to buy material, you need to ensure that you've got quality inspectors, you need to ensure that the lighting in the factory is good, and almost bulk of the overheads that the company has, or bulk of the fixed costs that the company has, are part of operations management. So those are the 4 things that I think are important, and the reasons why most people really study operations management. And when we're at that point, then Truman, I think I will launch the second poll, which is the last poll that we'll have this evening, just to understand why people wanted to attend this course. I know that I've just touched a brief about what operations management will go into more detail, but we just want to get a sense. I've launched the poll. It's just saying, why did you attend this course? And you've got 4 options. Then you can pick any of those, and then we'll continue. So I'll also give you another minute or so, and then from there we'll continue.
Fantastic. Thank you. Let's keep those responses coming.
Yes, we are at 64% now.
Fantastic, fantastic.
$71. Let's keep going. We're closer to 80, then we'll end the poll. So from the answers so far, Truman, 67% is saying they want the course certificate plus is for personal development as well. And then 25%, they are just attending for personal development only.
Right.
And interestingly, there's no one who's just attending because they are interested, or they are not sure exactly why. And yeah, other is 9. So yeah, we've reached 79% now. Just one more person just to answer.
Yep.
Thank you so much. So we've reached the 80% threshold. So as I said, that 65% of the attendees are saying they attended because they want a course certificate plus they attended for personal development.
All right. That's good, because it means that we've got all the relevant people on the call. On board. So it's good.
So I would just like to, I know I've spoken a lot about services and goods. I would just like to check with the attendees if there's anyone who can share with us in the industry or in the company that they are in, if are they producing goods or are they rendering services, and what industry is that? So just 1 or 2 individuals who can share with us. You will monitor the chat then, Truman, because I'm
Yes,
not,
yes.
I'm sharing, then I can't be able to see that.
Right. No problem. I'm here. So someone says Renisha lubricating oils and grease manufacturing. And then Pavan says service storage tanks.
Okay. No, that's perfect then. So
gold mining, someone from the mining industry, Omzamo.
Yes, wow, that's great.
And then there's rendering container handling and storage facilities from Montusi. Francisca says IT services. Kanya says manufacturing, training wheels. Oh, sorry, train wheels.
They are manufacturing train wheels.
Yes, Reuven says services, repairs of vending machines.
I think we can, yes.
And the responses are still coming. Sabelo, they're flocking in. Someone says, Leslie, I'm in logistics, cross-border and local haulage. Lucia says manufacturing over. Okay, I missed that one. Yeah, there's a lot of feedback or responses coming through the chats, moving very fast. But yeah, I think you get a sense of the industries. Yes.
Yes, and I think the people also get a sense whether they are in the goods or they are producing goods or they are rendering services. I think they also captured that quite well. So as I said then that this operations management doesn't function in an island. We need a lot of other departments or other functional areas so that to enable us to be able to deliver what is really needed by the customer. So I won't go through all those, but then just to touch a bit, for instance, in terms of a legal department, it would be, it needs to be there so that it can be consulted in terms of contracts for employees, for customers, and also interpreting the contracts that the company really enter into with the customers or with the suppliers. And then we also need the accounting or the finance department so that they can really give us information on the management of labor or cost of materials and overheads and all that, so that they can really give us a tongue lashing if we are reckless and really costing the company. Then we've got IT, which really give us infrastructure so that we can be able to work smarter, we can be able to work better. So they really need to assist operations with that. Then we've got human resource department or HR department that really needs to assist. For instance, if I'm a production manager and I say that I need an employee of this skill, with this skill, who can be able to operate a CNC machine, then they need to go or assist me with recruiting. They need to assist the operations managers with training people. They also need to assist with labor relations things, contracts negotiations, and salary negotiations. So those are some of the things that the HR function would do. Then the public relations or the marketing department needs to be out there and ensure that the company's brand is well known and is well established. So they assist us by putting the company out there. Then we get more customers that want us to produce or manufacture more goods or services. Then we can be able to function as a company. So as you can see that, yes, operations might be at the center. However, there's a whole lot of other functions or functional areas that really needs to be there to assist us. Now, let's try to dive deeper now in what really operations management do. Now, the managers really needs to make some critical decisions when they are employed to be operations managers or operations executives. Firstly, they need to guide the company in understanding what services and what products should they design so that we can sell. So you need to have a design department that really design the product or the service step by step, in order for us to understand that after we've done this, we need to add this, we need to add this, to add this in a sequence, so that it gives us that quality that is really needed by the customer. Then they need to understand or to come up with quality management systems. At what critical points will we be evaluating or examining quality of the product or the service that we are really rendering? And they operations managers are the people who are responsible to define what is quality. And we will give more input into that in the next session, which is we'll be focusing on quality. What is quality and who's responsible for quality? Then we need, once the product has been designed, when operations managers needs to design the process, they need to design the capacity to say, at this station, so many people are needed, at this one, they need so many people, and all those things. Then they also need to advise company which is the best location that we should be having our facilities in. And in most cases, facilities needs to be as closer to the customer as possible. They need to be as accessible to the customer as possible. If I can make an example about Amazon, we all know Amazon, that their business model was firstly based on rendering or selling things online. However, what they noticed was that now some of the products they aren't able to sell to the people that need them, because their locations are far from them. Hence, then they changed their strategy and put in what they call fulfillment centers, which are getting closer or having a warehouse closer to the person or to the client that you really want to render or to sell that product to. Then you also need to have a layout, or you design the layout once you've got that facility, so that you can understand, so that your product can move from one station to the next, to the next, to the next, without any delay or without any backwards and forwards movement. Because in operations management terms, that is wasting time. And what we really need or really want is what we call a one-piece flow, where a product moves from one person to the next, to the next, to the next, in a straight line up until it goes to the end of the line when it is a complete product. Then after the design, you really need now to come up with what is the job description, what is expected of the person in order to produce this product. You design that job specification to the T, so that you can be someone who is not familiar with this process can just take this instruction and go and manufacture or do this job to how it's supposed to be. I see Bongani, you've got your hand up. Bongani Mtimkulu.
That might have actually been a mistake, because Bongani just joined the session. So I think it was an error.
Oh, okay.
I'll attend to that. Thanks, Sabelo.
All right. No, that is fine. So as I was saying, you work with human resources to ensure that the job design or the job specification or the job descriptions are critical, and we've got what we call work instructions, which shows you step by step how you do this. It's a recipe of how to do this job. Like all the other ingredients that you have, maybe a flour at the back of the packaging, there are instructions of how to really what you need to follow in order for you to get the best bread or the best cake or whatever you are baking. Then you follow that recipe. So as operations managers, you also do that for the job to ensure that if you take that piece of paper and you follow those instructions, you will be able to perform the job as as an experienced employee or as an experienced operator would do. Then you also need to assist supply management or supply chain with which components or things do we really need to make in-house? How is it cheaper to make things here, or is it cheaper to buy them? For instance, Apple. Most of Apple have got, they design the product, and all they do after that is they outsource everything else to different suppliers, and those people they supply to where the Apple phone will be assembled. Then it gets assembled, then they sell it as an iPhone. So that decision of what needs to be done in-house and what needs to be bought outside is really some of the things that the operations manager team or management team really give input on. Then the next one is what we call how then will the inventory, how much inventory will we have in-house? When do we reorder and all that? And in conjunction with the procurement or logistic guys, then we can determine how much inventory do we need to keep in-house depending on the lead times and all that. So you will notice there are things like material requirement plannings, which is MRP, and just in time. Just in time is a manufacturing methodology where you keep little or no stock or no inventory in-house. All you do is you communicate with your suppliers that at a certain time you need to have supplied this product or this component to us. It works very well in the automotive sector. I once worked in the healthcare or in a hospital. We then advised that we really need to reduce the stock in the pharmacy because the stock that was kept there was the turnaround time was taking too long. And according to operations management understanding, if you hold onto inventory for too long, that is money that is kept there that should have done something else. And for those who are in South Africa, they would understand the impact of having a lot of inventory in-house that would have made if the businesses that were burnt down and the factories that were burnt down 3 or 4 weeks ago, if that is all money that is lost, that shouldn't have been there in the first place if it was not going to be used in the next week or so. Then you also need to be able to do your scheduling and ensure that your scheduling it is really it follows a process that is quite optimum. You don't have to do a lot of changeovers. You don't have to do a lot of downtime because you are just changing over, and you don't really systematically schedule your product quite well. Now, in order just to amplify this point, I used to work at Nestle manufacturing, where they manufacture Bawan and Dex. So I was in charge, or as a production manager in the Bawan and Dex manufacturing line. Now the Bawan had about 5 different products or sizes, and they were using different spreaders, where then you separate your dough. So when I went in there, I came up with a method of scheduling that ensured that all the products that were using the same spreader, they were being scheduled one after the other, so that once we've put the spreader there, we minimize the changeover times and all that by ensuring that we just change the settings, and then it gives us the product that we want. And then maybe towards the end of the week, then we can change it to the different spreader that will give us a different product depending. And then just that small thing that some people will think it's common sense, it made a huge impact in having an efficient plant that then at the end of the day, we managed to reduce the overtime that was being worked by employees, and people spend more time with their families. And then lastly, we also need to interact with the maintenance department so that they can have a scheduled maintenance in order for them to minimize breakdowns and ensure that the machines are running as often as possible, because those machines cost the company quite a lot of money. So we really need to maximize their capacity. So those are the 10 critical decisions that a human, what we call an operations manager really need to think about when they are doing their job. I see that there's someone else who got his hand or her hand up. Is there a question? So in the absence
I think it was an erroneous hand once again. Somebody can proceed.
Yeah, now in the absence of questions, then I should ask one. Just now, because I've gone through these 10 critical decisions, which one would you think is the most difficult decision that an operations manager should make or should give input on? As I said, that on the other side, I've given you quite a lot of questions that you need to ponder on when you're making these decisions as an operations manager. So which one do you think might be difficult for you if you were to be put into the operations manager position tomorrow?
There's
Hello?
a response saying quality management.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not okay. Someone says quality management would be difficult. There's another one, quality management, service and product design.
Okay.
From Reuven. Neil says finding the sweet spot in maximizing efficiencies.
Okay, so I think the ones that are talking about quality management, once quality has been agreed on, it is really easy to manage it. However, the most difficult part there is to agree the quality standard or what is termed a quality product when you interact with your customers or when you enter into that contract with the customer. And of course, you have to utilize the feedback that you receive from customers if maybe there are products that they are rejecting or things that they are not happy with. You utilize that, but we'll talk about that next week on how you utilize that in order for you to improve the quality of your product or the quality of your service. And this point in quality is one of the things that have made Uber to really be successful, because they really understood what is putting customer at the center is. And they say that will give you quality product and will communicate with you as more frequently as possible. So you will see the information real time. And then if you will notice that after you just been dropped off by Uber, they send you an invoice telling you that this is how much your trip has costed. And then from there, they can then say that if you've got any issues, you need to rate the driver. Sorry. Now that rating of the driver is us communicating with Uber so that they can increase their quality standard. Hence, then, if a driver has got low ratings, they take that driver out of their app because that person is not really adhering to the to the quality standard that they really have put in place. So
yes,
thank you so much. Yes.
Okay, sorry, if I may add, there's some interesting responses that you may want to address as well. I see Renisha and Lucia are saying maintenance, and then Kanyo is saying process and capacity design. Henry says inventory, and then Francisca just lost the response there. Okay, got it. So Francisca says usually we need training to ensure everyone knows what are the quality standards required. And then there's another one from Jeremiah, which is quality management. I can go on and on. I see there's a lot of quality management, and this one says quality management and human resources. This is Shanawaz. And then Ricky, service quality is easy to manage compared to product quality. Zivanai Marshall says human resources, and then Zamo is saying location. So I'm just going to end it at that. The responses are still coming, Sabelo. Very interesting, views there.
Yeah,
I appreciate the interaction.
For me personally, I would agree with the people that talk about human resources, because it is really difficult to deal with people. And then that is one of the things that makes operations managers or industrial engineers to be in demand, because you've got the thinking up capacity or ability of an engineer. However, on the other side, you also need to have the soft skills to deal with people in the human resources side. So after I left when I was at Nestle, I really saw that I am lacking in the human resources side. Hence, then I went on to study further things that would expose me to human resources and the soft skills. So it is really something. With maintenance in these days, it used to be difficult, or it's difficult if you really don't measure what is happening, or after how long does the machine break down. And then from there, you can predict that this is how much we need to schedule in order for us to maintain it before it breaks down. However, that is the conversation that we need to have with the maintenance or the engineering guys, so that we can, because ours is to ensure that we push production, or we put those manufacturing those services. Maintenance on their side, they want to make sure that they keep the machines healthy. So we really need to have that understanding in between the two of us. Now, just going further now to some of the significant events that have happened in operations management. Now, at first, we had what we called cost focus, which really spent quite a long time with different activities happening in the industry. And in the early concept, were all about ensuring that a certain person specializes in this job, and then you will have that person in that job. So Smith and Baggage came with that concept to say, let's make sure that if we train someone to be an operator who maybe is inserting screws in a chair, then that person needs to specialize on that, and we need to make sure that we train that person. And then from there, Whitney came with the concept of having standardized parts, where you will have a 13 bolt, where you will have a 16 bolt, where you will have this part of or something, which then enabled companies to be able to buy specific materials or standardized parts that were meant or were specific for whatever product they were producing or service they were doing. So that era then was mainly about standardizing, whether it is labor or the parts. Then from there, we went into what we term the scientific management era, where then Frederick Taylor really contributed by saying, as operations managers, we need to be able to select the best personnel that will be able to work in a certain area in the organization, based on science with things that were called work studies, which involved motion and time studies. Then he then included this to say, let's study if a certain operation, does this operation need someone to be standing or to be sitting down? Does this operation need someone to be, or economically, how should the operator be in order for them to produce the best? Then that's where then they started to introduce science into this. And then Gantt charts, Gantt came with Gantt chart where then we started to project plan and say, this is how long we'll do, these are the steps in between this project and all that. Then Frederick Taylor again came with process analysis, where then he analyzed the process and said, we need to match employees with the right job that they need to do. We need to have proper training for them. We need to provide proper work methods and tools for these employees. And we also need to legitimize incentives. That's where then incentives started to say, if you produce more than the required, then we'll give you a bonus, or we'll give you more, or we'll give you time off. So it happened in that era of scientific management era. And then from there, we moved to the mass production era, where then I think we all know that Henry Ford said that instead of having people moving to where the job is done, let's have the parts moving to where the people are. And then that's where then the assembly line came in. And then from there, then you had your materials planning and all those things. And as I said before, that one of the things that we really need as operations managers needs to be cautious of is what is called takt time. Then Henry Ford then came with that saying that you can buy any color as long as it's black. That was not just because black was his favorite color, but it was because when he analyzed the assembly line and all the things that were needed, they saw that the black cars or the black paint dries quicker than the other colors. So it was 4 hours saving in time. And then that's why they force people to buy these cars, because now with that 4 hours, they can make a lot of more other products and all that. And then from there, we moved to an era where we focused mainly on quality. That was, as I said, mainly pushed or backed up by what we call just in time. Then we started using computers and started focusing on how then do we improve this so that it can satisfy the customer needs. And if I can just make a summarized or a simplified description of what quality is for you meeting the expectations of the customer. So then that is where then lean and just in time and Kanbans came into play, because the focus was on trying to improve quality. So it was in that lean production era. And sorry about that. So as I said, that I worked in a big healthcare industry company. They are just introducing lean now. So as you can see that in the manufacturing or in the operations field, this started way back in around 1980. So this shows us how far behind are we with the concepts or the technologies or the methods that are there that can enable us to improve quality. Then the last one, then which started with which is the mass customization era, which for some they might say that is contradiction. How can you make something in mass, but then you customize? Because customization is for each and every individual. However, with the emergence of internet and all the data that we have, the companies now are able to customize for each and everyone. That's why when you receive an email from a certain company, you receive it with your name, and then they are addressing something to you. That's why when they advertise something for you on Facebook or on Twitter or wherever, they track or they track your what do you do, and from there they utilize that data in order for them to customize your offerings to you. And it's amazing that Amazon, with the data that they have, they are now able to recommend a book to you that you need to read based on your on the books that you've bought previously. And I think in the near future, their view is to say they will deliver that book to you, and when you read it, you will actually like that book. And it is the same thing that Netflix is doing currently, where they recommend movies to you or films to you based on how you've been consuming their content. And when you really open and view that movie, it's aligned with all the movies that you have really watched in the past. So this mass customization era, it didn't end in 2010. It is still continuing, and it is enabled by the abundance of data that we have given these companies, of course, unknowingly, for some knowingly. So the companies then are building to order. So now, even with the cars, you can see with Tesla, when they before they introduce a certain model, they will have launch it and have people ordering it, and then they only build based on that order. So I will just browse through this because I can see that we are running a bit out of time, Truman. So because I want us to. I want us by today to have finished the productivity part. So some of the exciting trends in the operations management field or in the world out there is really around 5 or 6 issues. So the first one is, now we've moved from local or national focus to global focus. And that has been enabled by a reduction in communication and transportation costs. So now it is easier for me who's in South Africa to communicate with someone who's in India or everywhere in the world. And it is way cheaper than it was previously. So that then has made operations management to be an exciting field, because now I can be, I once assisted a company in Cape Town that was manufacturing shoes for Woolworths, and they lost that contract because even though Woolworths was next door to them in the same company, in the same country, but the Chinese were producing these products quite faster than them and quite cheaper than this company, and that company unfortunately had to close down. Now globalization have really destroyed the boundaries that were there. Hence, then it is really an exciting trend that the operations management field is really looking at. Then the other one is the just-in-time. Just before COVID hit, everybody knew how long it took. It took 2 weeks for something to be shipped from China to South Africa. However, it takes 3 weeks to ship to some companies in the same continent. So how then have we moved from batch shipping to just-in-time shipping? As I've explained, just-in-time is ensuring that you receive the quantities and the inventories that you really need. You no longer have to buy in bulk. Can Hlati please mute? Then the other one would.
Okay, muted.
Thank you so much. Then the other one is the length or the length of product development. It is really this day and age, everything is happening at a faster pace than it used to happen before. Not only because of internet or on all that, but because of the thinking and the advancement that the world has moved on. So we really have shorter life cycles for products. Hence, it is really a shame that most companies in Africa are still using 3G or 2G, whereas now some countries are already on 5G. So those countries are really progressing, progressive in terms of having their products being on the shelf quite sooner than us who are in this side of the world. Then we also had moved from standardized products to mass customization, as I said, when previously you had a telephone that was designed like this. Now we've got cell phones that are really customized based on what you want. We moved from job specialization to now empowered employees who can do a lot of different things. We moved from saying employees need to just come in and leave their brains at the gate of the organization. Now we're saying bring your brains and give us some innovative ideas on how can we improve these products, because they are the ones who really understand and know how to solve the problems that we have. And then we move from low cost now to being environmentally sensitive, and also there's a whole lot of issues around ethics, especially for people who are in the supply chain and logistics functions. Then we really need, the world have moved now to a world where we really hold high ethical standards and social responsibility. So those are the trends that are really exciting in the operations management phase. Now, we've got this fourth stage where as an operations manager, you need to see, I will explain it further in the next slide, how this applies in real terms. So you move from just correcting the West, or let me just move to that one, Truman, because it's really self-explanatory. You move from what we call chaos and firefighting, where as an operations manager, you need to be on the shop floor in order for things to happen. You've got breakdowns, you've got defects, you've got everything. Then once you apply operations management tools, you move into a more controlled phase where then you can be able to define a process from start to finish. And then once you've done that, you will be then able to measure the process. And then once you've measured the process, you identify inefficiencies, you put process controls in place, so you will have a managed environment. And then from there, once your employees then have bought into this idea, you move into what we call continuous improvement phase, where then you've got your processes being integrated with what the employees are thinking. And then from there, you've got this culture of having everything integrated and moving swiftly. And even from your office, you can hear if something is not going wrong, is going wrong in the shop floor, because there's a certain bit that the process goes with. So as an organization or as an operations manager, then those are the stages that you really need to move or to go through in order for you to have an optimized or cooperative or efficient process in place in your production or in your rendering of services. So you really need to move from firefighting or chaos up until that one, of course, with utilizing data and all that. But we'll talk more about how you move from that initial phase to the top phase next week, when we focus on continuous improvement and quality improvement.